Okay. Well, welcome everyone to our Connectivity Committee meeting, Thursday, January 28th. Good to see everyone. Call the meeting to order. First item is approval of our agenda. Has everyone looked at it? Content? We need changes or is it good? If you're happy with it, I'll entertain a motion to approve it. Okay, moved by Mike and Duncan. Call the question, Catherine.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Councillor Shiger,
Yes.
Councillor McPhail,
Yes.
Mike Andrews,
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes.
4-0, the motion is carried.
Thank you for that. Item 3 is to disclose your pecuniary interest and the general nature therein. Not seeing anyone wiggling or put their hands up, so we'll declare there is none. Item 4 is delegation. We have Brad Mousseau from Uplink Wireless. I see Brad has joined us. Okay, Brad, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you.
Welcome. Go ahead.
Okay. So most of you guys know who I am already. We are Elgin based. We started here. We live here. We work here. We play here. I know you guys have been trying to find a solution to the connectivity problem. I know a lot of great ideas have been passed around. I know that, it's more important than ever that we start figuring something out. So I came up with a rough proposal that I wanted to run past you guys that I think would help us kind of rapidly deploy as well as strengthen the digital divide down the road. Next slide, please. So what I'm proposing is, and I've said this all along, I know others have said it, Cecil Coxon being one of them, a hybrid solution, a fiber wireless mix. I believe that based on the topography that I know in the county, based on water towers, based on several items, that 8 to 12 towers, 150 feet tall, in conjunction with the water towers in the county, would be able to service approximately 90% of the county with good wireless coverage. They're pretty big towers, they're pretty beefy. Several smaller pops of roughly 100 feet, which are cost effective, easy to deploy. We currently have 4 of them in the county. Would accompany the bigger towers. And of course, the key to this is getting fiber between as many towers as possible. If we can deliver fiber to the towers, we can go even beyond the 50 meg minimum. So we can start offering 100 megs off the towers, 150 megs off the towers, with little to no effort. Wireless technology has evolved so tremendously in the last 5 years to 10 years that there's now, what they call point to multi-point that can do gigabit. That's technically what 5G cell data is just that next generation of stuff. And of course, as we were connecting the towers, we'd be connecting all the homes along the path between the towers. Next slide, please. This is a little recap of the internet forum from the fall, just kind of what we offer. We are a triple play service provider, meaning we do offer unlimited internet, universal minimum, digital TV, fully licensed and registered with the CRTC, and VoIP phone systems that include E911. Again, fixed wireless speeds could be increased easily to 150 megs as capacity and technology evolves. Fiber services from 25 to 150 megs easily done as we're going along the path. Next slide. Thank you. What we would need to accomplish this, access to all the water towers in the county. There are water towers in Rodney, Wallacestown, Dutton, here in Belmont. There's one down in Port Stanley. There's the one near Port Burwell. There is the one in Elmer. There's the one in St. Thomas. Almost all of these water towers can see each other from the top, which makes them great relay points to start feeding the 150-foot or the 100-foot towers. With that capability, we could have a 100-foot tower put up that maybe only services 20, 30 homes that would never see fiber in a million years. What else do we need? We would need engineering, better engineering or more engineering support from the county. I have to say that, so far, Brian and Peter and them have been absolutely awesome guys to work with as we're starting to plan some of our bigger projects. Very informative, very willing to help, which is great. The big two issues that we've come across so far are Highway 3 being MTO and the railway crossings with CN Rail. CN Rail has some really steep requirements for their crossings. Access to county and municipal land for the towers. With that, the big towers, especially the 150 footers, I would like to see them installed on municipal land, county land, whatever it may be. These towers would be dual purpose, tri-purpose even. Not only would they connect everybody, but stuff like 911 services. Almost every department in the county that I'm aware of is digital. I know Malahide is. I know Central Elgin is. Want to say that Dutton and West Elgin are as well. So with everybody being digital, coverage is important. So the towers could be used for that. The towers could save the county $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month in fiber bills by allowing the county roads departments, sewage treatment plants, community centers, fire halls to all be interconnected. So instead of paying Eastlink, all that lovely money to connect the couple sites that the RFP went out last year, the county could pocket that money and use these towers to do the exact same thing, probably at an even higher bandwidth. The use for the towers just keeps going on and on and on and on. So that's what I'd like to see with the big towers. The little towers, well, we're going to stick those puppies anywhere that anybody lets us to give people internet. What else would we need? Funding via grant or loan. So far to date, for the 4 years that we've been in operation, we've invested almost every dollar that our company has made back into the company to expand service, expand capacity, expand coverage. We're very cognizant about delivering a top quality product at an affordable price, and helping out the community. So with that, I know that when part of the forum that we saw, or one of the connectivity committees, Chatham Kent kind of had a private-public partnership with Tech Savvy, doing exactly this. Let's run fiber to the bigger areas. Let's run Sky-Fi, they call it, to the areas that don't make sense for fiber. Unfortunately, we didn't get a lot of details out of that partnership and the open access agreement, et cetera, et cetera. But, Chatham Kent did it. They didn't have to worry about Swift. They had somebody that was rooted in their county, that believed in their county, and, is going to town in their county. So that's kind of what I'm offering up here as well. We're homegrown. We're from here. We're never going anywhere. And then what we figure is, to start, $2 to $4 million. The first $1 million would be enough to deploy the big towers quickly across the county. We anticipate that if you guys said go in April, we could have up to 12 towers plus the water towers fully functional, fully online by October. That's based on how fast we put up towers in the past, how fast we bring new sites on, et cetera, et cetera. And while we're doing that, we would be in conjunction running fiber between the sites. We've got a fiber presence here in Belmont. We have a fiber presence going in at 3 different spots across the county to start feeding towers as well as neighboring homes. So we would be able to work in tandem. We own all of our own equipment. We own all of our own staff. We don't outsource. We're very nimble because of that, meaning that if I decide one day I want to turn left instead of turning right, or, Any one of you guys says, hey, you know, we would really love service over at this roads department that has nothing. It's a, okay, cool, let's turn. That's kind of the nice thing about being the littler guy, is that we're not relying on a lot of the, I don't even know what you would want to call it, bureaucracy of being a bigger guy. We can literally turn on a dime. So that's that. Next slide, please. What we'll do, again, all towers online within 9 months. Fiber connecting all towers by the end of 2022. I wanted to give myself some breathing room on that. Connect any county municipal facilities as requested. And we estimate easily 70% of the county serviced by wireless with just the 12 towers. Of course, several smaller 100-foot towers would finish it off. About the only people that we don't think we would be able to service would be that guy that wants to live in the middle of the forest at the bottom of Catfish Creek because it's pretty. There's always going to be that one or two guys that have, you know, the 300-foot driveway that nobody's running fiber up it. You can't get a tower in there. I mean, if they want to put up a tower, we can service them, of course. We're always willing to help. And of course, we would not target places like Dutton. The nice guys at North Frontenac did a really good job at running fiber around Dutton. Dutton is well taken care of. 2 feet outside of Dutton in any direction, not so much. Belmont's the same boat. Belmont has gigabit Rogers that has third-party Tapia access. You step 2 feet outside of Belmont in any direction and all internet ceases to exist, with the exception of us. So we definitely would not be targeting any built-up areas that have existing stuff, so that we don't overtax our towers and our wireless network. And of course, you know, at the end of the day, we're giving residents more choice. Those of you that live in the Elmer area especially know that the only game out there is Eastlink. I can't even tell you guys how many calls a week we get from people in Elmer asking for service because Eastlink's been down for a week. This has happened with Eastlink. They're not returning calls. I was on hold for 3 hours, et cetera, et cetera. You know, unfortunately, you know, they've from what we've heard and seen, they kind of abandoned Elmer a little bit over the years, which is sad. That's about it. Next slide, please. Our commitment to Elgin. We are the only ISP that's based solely in Elgin. I know there are other ISPs operating in Elgin, but I mean, our office is here. We live here. We pay lovely taxes here to good old Central Elgin. Keep our offices and services in the county. I don't intend to move anywhere anytime soon. I love it here. You know, everybody is great. Even our government officials, like I say, every time I've had to bring in any of you guys, talk to Brian, talk to Peter, talk to anybody, you guys have been awesome. Support local groups, sports teams. We do that now. You know, we sponsor soccer teams. We're in talks about sponsoring a board at the arena here in Belmont. Anytime somebody in the community has a fundraiser, we're always pitching in. And of course, our continually reinvest into our network like we have so far. We are not a profit-driven company, as funny as that sounds. You know, as long as our bills are paid, our guys are taken care of, you know, we don't have, you know, 50 shareholders sitting behind us going, where's my money? So we can take that money that would go to shareholders and go, okay, let's run fiber down this ridiculous road and get these 5 homes because they deserve it. You know, let's put up a new tower to get these 7 homes because they need it. You know, and I would love to say that we're going to be like that as long as we're in business. I don't have a crystal ball, so I mean, anything could happen, but as of right now, that is my mandate for my company. And one more slide, please. I believe this is the last. One thing that I am totally open to that I believe is a good idea for the county, because at the end of the day, this has to be good for the residents. NFTC was the only other company that was nice enough to be part of the forum back in the fall. I know multiple providers were asked. Only the 2 of us responded. From what I have seen of NFTC, they care. They're doing great. I've had multiple talks with them about partnerships in regards to using their fiber, putting up wireless towers, all that fun jazz. We've hashed some stuff out. I've been busy, so I haven't really circled back. But they've got fiber throughout the county already in certain key spots like Dutton. I would be ignorant if I said, "Oh, I'm not working with them." They've got it there. Hey guys, can I get a pipe here? I'm going to fire up this tower. Now I'm going to go east of Dutton. So if NFTC is willing, there's a great opportunity for us to do something they don't. They don't do wireless. We are getting into fiber, but only for the sake of our towers. So yeah, again, it's we can provide their fiber redundant links with these big towers. We can give we can share access to conduit. So instead of using some of the government money, if I need to go down a roadway to get to a potential tower, they could be like, oh, hey, we've got this here, then we can use that. A lot of partnerships between the two companies, I think, could be done. NFTC is not going to go down some of these roads that I wouldn't go down either. So it doesn't make business sense to run fiber. Well, it makes business sense to run wireless. So I think that's about it.
Ed, thank you for the presentation. I'm sure there'll be questions. I'll open the floor for questions. Mike, go ahead.
Hi, Brad. Thanks for that presentation. That was very helpful. Couple of questions. You mentioned your plans would cover 90% of the county, and I'm going to assume that's geography, not necessarily residents. Brad, I mean, that's an enormous amount of work to come up with a number like that, but I'm assuming that's geography. Could you confirm that?
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely correct, Mike. The towers, of course, any of you guys that are familiar with wireless, you get coverage in Fresnel zones and all this other fun jazz. Based on some initial mapping, we believe that certain radios at certain heights with certain power puts will cover 5 to 10 kilometer circles. No matter how hard we try, we're always going to have those dead zones. We're always going to have that guy that wants to live in the forest with that 300-foot driveway that, Mike, you can contest to this. Nobody in their right mind is running fiber up a 300-foot driveway for somebody. It's just not cost effective. So there's always going to be those guys. But yeah, the theory of the 90% coverage is the tower at this height, radio at these powers will give us this much coverage area around that tower. So, and most of our towers everything's line of sight dependent. We average 10 kilometers radius per tower. Side to side of the county is roughly 130 kilometers.
Okay, thanks. And just not to be defensive, but I'm one of those guys. I'm in the valley of the Otter Creek, of course, not the Catfish. My driveway, I think, is only 150 feet long. But anyway, I am in a hole, so I can appreciate the people that live in those spots. What a challenge that is. Now, the 150-foot towers you talk about, I'm assuming that's a freestanding tower. It wouldn't require acres and acres of land for guying. And okay. Not to monopolize this, but a couple other quick questions. Your initial capital estimate, 2 to 4 million, is that the total capital that you think you would be deploying, or is that what you're sort of asking or expecting maybe to ask the county for as a contribution to your bill? So
basically, that's what I'm kind of asking as a starting point. We, on average, with the first 1 to 2 million, that would be enough to deploy those large towers and do it in a very expedient manner. Once those large towers are up, that also includes radio equipment, and then we can start servicing and connecting people. We have the manpower, we have the trucks, we have all that fun stuff. So we would just start connecting people once they're online. The up to 4 million depends on how much fiber we want to start running. As I mentioned, Mike, I know I've talked to a few of your guys about access to your fiber and stuff. I just haven't really circled back lately. I know that I've talked to Eastlink, I've talked with Rogers. We do resell for Rogers and Cogeco and Frontier. So I know where there are fiber FOSCs all over the county. So I know that if I put a tower 2 kilometers from this FOSC, I'm good. That's where we're running the fiber, is that 2 kilometers. So that's, again, taking into consideration that the initial large towers are going to be very close to somebody's fiber, whether it's yours, whether it's Rogers, whether it's Bell, whether it's Eastlink. That's what we're taking into consideration. Not every tower would have fiber right off the hop, maybe every other. And then as money comes in, we reinvest. Now we start connecting all the towers to fiber.
Okay, just this is more curiosity, I guess, in part. But do you do your own construction when it comes to fiber, or planning to do your own, or would you use subcontractors?
Nope, it's all on us.
All on you? Okay.
Yep. We own several small pieces of equipment. Everything we do, Mike, is open trench. I'm sure you'll probably ask that next. So we do open trench concept. We do have some small directional drills for roadways and driveways. We also have just recently put in a purchase order for a daylighting trailer that will allow us to be even more nimble in some of the more cautious areas, we'll call it. So we have the proper insurance. We have all of our WSIB clearance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We have our Book 7 training, all that fun jazz.
Okay, thanks, Brad. I'll stop monopolizing it. And just for the record, I do not work for North Frontenac Telephone. I work for Packetworks, and they're two separate entities. We do have a relationship with NFTC, but I am not a representative of NFTC. Just so you're clear on that.
Oh, my apologies, Mike.
No worries. No worries. Thanks.
Good discussion. Further questions? Duncan, go ahead. Sorry. You're muted.
Thank you for your presentation, Brad. Just to clarify in my own mind that your plan that you presented us today, there's no thought in that plan to try to option some of the so-called billions of dollars that the federal and provincial government have got to assist municipalities in supplying broadband. That a plan that is all on was going all on your own without any other help from other levels of government?
Nope, I'm definitely open to applying to some of those other grants and stuff. I did apply to the rapid response grant that was just recently out. I have not heard back. Several of my comrades in other areas that are also small WISPs have not heard back. I know that the SWIFT stuff is already all closed. SWIFT normally doesn't support wireless. Apparently, though, there's been 2 projects just recently pop up that, magically SWIFT now has wireless. I don't need to go down the rabbit hole with everybody on this board about how everybody feels about SWIFT. They are doing some good stuff now, which is nice. But that's just recently. If there are other grant money, the Connecting Ontario and all that kind of stuff, I would love to apply for that. One of the biggest problems with applying for a lot of this grant money is you need to have a chunk of money in your pocket to apply for it. So if you want $900,000, for instance, on average, they'll give you 600,000. You need to have 300,000 ready to go. We're busy investing all of our money back into the company, putting up another tower, expanding our capacities, that kind of stuff. I don't sit on my money watching it collect interest, unfortunately. So, I mean, if you guys were willing to do a grant or a loan of some sort of, say $2 million to start, I can then turn to these government organizations and say, look, I've got Elgin County behind me. They are my financial backer. I've now got this much money in the account. We want you guys to match it at 2/3. So now instead of 2 million, we now have 6 million as a joint effort. And, next thing you know, we're running fiber in more places. We're deploying towers in more places, all that fun stuff.
Thank you. Further questions? I probably should disclose that I actually am an uplink customer. Actually, quite a few of my neighbors are. That was out of necessity. I only say that so I don't want to, I'm not promoting anyone, but I'm grateful for the connection I have compared to what I did have or didn't have. but I'm not going to promote or otherwise. But I know a lot of my neighbors are in better shape than we were here 6 months ago. But further questions, please. Dominique.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A lot of what we discussed through different conference summaries or even through the forum was about future-proofing any investments. And we also talked about short-term solution for the urgency and emergency that we're facing now, but as well as, sound future-proof investment. On that scale of, urgency, immediate need, responding to future-proof investment, where is your type of solution? Because we heard a lot about one of the reasons not to invest in wireless is because of that lack of future-proofing and how the reliance of data, even the 50-10, is not going to be enough. So curious on your thoughts on that.
Right. So that's a great point. So as you know, Malahide's looking at putting up some towers to alleviate some of their fiber bill from Eastlink. As I said, technology has only rocketed in the past 5 years. Where 5+ years ago, wireless, you were lucky to do 1, 2, 3 megs. We are delivering gigabit between our towers right now at 10 kilometers, no problem, with very little interference from stuff like rain. Technology is only going to continue to improve. As a great example is, how many of your devices even have a place to plug a cable anymore in Dominique? Like your laptop, your cell phone, all this. Cables are the old way, wireless is easier to connect, easier to deploy. It keeps growing every time we turn around. We're on the cusp of something called Wi-Fi 6, which is only going to expedite your home wireless. Same stuff keeps happening out in the wireless internet industry. New spectrums are being opened, 60 gigahertz, 80 gigahertz. This is how the guys like Starlink are able to do what they're doing, is because of the evolution of wireless technologies. And again, like I said, these towers are multi-use. So are we going to be up there delivering internet? Yes. But imagine having an emergency backup network for all the fire departments. Having, ham radio equipment up there, digital receivers, whatever need be. Like I said, there's 7 water towers across the county. Imagine all of a sudden we have 16 large points of presence across the county. If Dutton was in a really bad spot with the fire department, West Elgin is easily responding. Southwold is easily responding. Command centers are expanded. We work with Kettle Creek Conservation Authority. We're currently putting wireless into their parks. It's only going to get more demand of connected devices. So wireless is the new way of doing things. It has been for a while. So it's only going to keep evolving. Fiber's been the same for the past 20 years. All it's done is gotten cheaper to deploy. That's why now people are deploying fiber instead of copper. Fiber is actually cheaper. So, hey, let's put it in. It does better. So these towers are never going to be a waste of money. They're always going to be upgraded. They're always going to be retrofitted. That's what we do now. We'll start with a certain tower with a certain radio. When it hits capacity, we upgrade those radios. Then we go again. Oh, well, we need a better link to that tower. Okay, let's upgrade that link. Everything can be upgraded, and you can play musical equipment until you're blue in the face. That's the beauty of the wireless. It's faster, easier, more cost-effective to deploy than fiber. If something happened to fiber, there's a connection between Dutton and Wallacestown, and it's a weak link in the design of NFTC. If somebody accidentally put a backhoe through there, it could be down for 3 to 4 days. Well, wireless would be a redundancy to keep Wallacestown going. So yeah, the towers are quick response, rapid deployment, and future-proof. We just keep upgrading the radios as new stuff comes out.
Brad, I want to thank you. I'm looking at my watch here. We have quite a bit of material to get on. I want to thank you for the presentation. It would be says questions because we're out of time now. They could forward them on to you for an answer.
Of course.
Certainly. Well, I want to thank you on behalf of the panel for your time today. Good information, good discussion, but we do have to move on. But again, thank you.
No worries.
So if anyone has a question, get a hold of them and we'll get an answer for you.
Yes.
Thank you. And we're up to our action plan. And Julie, I know it's a long day for a lot of us and we're a bit rushed, but please go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. And maybe we should just quickly receive that
Absolutely.
presentation.
Look for a motion to receive and file.
Receive and file the presentation.
Mover, please. Dominique. Duncan.
Yes.
Call the vote, please.
Counselor Jiguer,
Yes.
Counselor McPhail,
Yes.
Mike Andrews,
Yes,
Mr. Warden.
Yes.
4-0, the motion is carried.
Thank you, Catherine. Appreciate that. Okay, Julie. Lead us on.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. Through you to committee members, at your last committee meeting, the members discussed the Roma broadband connectivity map. And my key takeaway there was that as a committee, you're definitely getting closer to designing a connectivity solution for our community. But my other takeaway was that we still have a little ways to go, and there are a number of critical decisions that we've yet to kind of get clear direction on from the committee. So from a staff perspective, it's really important that we start to reach consensus about what the committee is working toward and what the framework for a connectivity strategy is. I also think it's important that we start to compile all of the data that's been collected so far by the committee into one public document so that the public can see in one place how the committee's work is starting to come together and form the basis of a strategy. So we have prepared a discussion guide and identified a number of areas where it would be really helpful to have clear committee direction. We did just wrap up this document this morning, and so we'll circulate the full document following today's meeting. And for any members of the public who are joining us on this call, we'll make sure that we post a copy to our website immediately as well, so that everyone has access to what we're referring to in this meeting. So I do intend to go over this discussion guide, but at a high level today. The guide itself is about 40 pages in length, and it includes a number of key resources and data that has been collected by the committee and seeks to identify next steps for the committee's work. And we think those next steps are really important in order to kind of pave the way for a finalized strategy. So to make the most effective use of everyone's time today, I suggest that we go over this at a really high level and fairly quickly, and then send committee members away with the homework of having to review it in detail and provide clear direction in some of the areas that staff have identified that would be most helpful. So to give you kind of the framework of this discussion guide, there is an executive summary which seeks to summarize the document in its entirety. There is a link to the committee's work and council strategic plan, along with a list of committee members. You'll see that we've gathered and pulled together some background information and research about our assessment of the problem, and this includes the committee's work surveying the community and local ISPs. We've provided some information about developing a connectivity strategy, and then strategic framework considerations, and then a priority area for this committee, in particular following a discussion and proposal received from one of our local ISPs, is the committee contemplating funding for a connectivity strategy in our community? And then next steps. So how do we get from a number of areas that may require additional research and action to an actual strategy and what's required there? We've also pulled together some additional information and resources for the committee. So I'll skip past a lot of the areas where the committee can read at your leisure or may already be intimately familiar with. So you'll see we pulled together how serious is the gap in Elgin County. We routinely hear that we have a problem, and the committee has done some great work in this area in order to identify data and collect data to support the extent of the problem that we have. Though you'll start to see these boxes will pop up, committee follow-up. And I would consider this to be committee homework. So consider whether a technical assessment of served, unserved, and underserved areas is required. These are staff recommendations for the committee's consideration. So I'll skip ahead. You'll see another key area here. We also need to pull together some demographic data. We need to inventory our assets. We did just hear that there are 7 water towers across the county. We should verify that information, and we should start to pull together specific data beyond what has already been collected. So developing a connectivity strategy, we talk a bit here about planning and what is included in a connectivity strategy. So some thought to, whether this is going to be a really detailed or a high level strategy is a consideration for the committee. Thinking about how we will continue to involve our community as we develop this strategy is another key consideration. This links closely with Council's interest and obligation to be as transparent and accountable as possible. We note some challenges to connecting Elgin, and we've heard these from our ISPs through the survey. We've also heard this through the community who have had direct experience with ISPs who have said, we can't reach your property because it's too heavily treed or you're too far away from a tower. So other members of our community have simply said, yes, connectivity is available to me, but I can't afford it, or the speeds aren't sustainable for my business needs or my children's needs as they learn from home. So we have to continue to assess our current state, and we suggest we have to develop a connectivity map that is easy for interested ISPs as well as community members to see what's available in their communities and what is underserved and unserved in our community. So I'll keep going fairly quickly through here. We've done a bit of a technology assessment, and we have a lot more work to do in this area. So we suggest that we complete a technological or a technical assessment, and this will likely involve partnering with our ISPs, may involve some consultant support. At this point in time, we don't have staff expertise at the county who can support the level of technical detail that would be required for this assessment. Potential solutions. There are a number of solutions, and this section provides a little bit of high-level detail about what each of those solutions entails. So from fiber to wireless to satellite, there are a number of considerations there. We do suggest that unbiased, objective technical expertise needs to be leveraged in this area to make sure that whatever solution the committee lands on is something that would work well and isn't a decision that's informed by anyone who has a vested interest in doing business in our area. Vendor assessment is important, and contacting potential vendors, though we do have to be very careful and strictly adhere to our code of conduct, Council's code of conduct, and Council's procurement policy in this area. So as we communicate with any potential vendors, we have to be very careful that we're not breaking any procurement rules. And then part 3, which is getting into the exciting stuff. So we've passed the point where, we've gathered a lot of information. We'll contemplate what additional information we need to inform the strategy and then get right into the strategic framework. So we've offered up some guiding principles as suggestions to the committee, and as follow-up, for homework, think about how those can be refined to reflect the committee's preference. Partnerships is going to be critical. So the committee has worked hard to establish partnerships and make connections with local ISPs as well with the community in general. So it'll be important to think about what that looks like on an ongoing basis. There are a number of non-financial strategies of ways that the committee could support connectivity in Elgin County that doesn't involve an investment, but I think forms a critical component of any connectivity strategy. So we've given some thought to what the committee might want to consider for non-financial support. So when you have time, I encourage you to think about each of those areas. Some of them we've received some information about. For instance, working with our local municipal partners on reducing red tape and streamlining our policies so that we're all making it a little easier for ISPs to seek the permits that they require for installation and providing the right information that ISPs need in order to secure other sources of funding outside of what's available from the county. So then we get into contemplating funding. And this is very important for the committee to provide direction on. So are we looking at developing a strategy that only supports non-financial support, or is this a hybrid approach? And is there non-financial support and some financial support coming from the county? And if so, what are the expectations for that program? And there are a huge number of considerations that the committee will have to consider before we can go down the path of even assigning a dollar value associated with what a funded program looks like. But first and foremost, and as mentioned at our last meeting, we did seek the opinion of our solicitor about bonusing and making sure we're not in contravention of the Municipal Act. And you'll see that we've provided some commentary from the solicitor in this section here. One note here, a funding program is more complicated than we might think. So it's not as easy as just sole sourcing or making a $5 million fund, just as an example, available. It is about making sure that that funding program aligns with the goals of the committee and council, and that it is future-proofed, that it is able to deliver an affordable and reliable service to our communities, particularly unserved and underserved areas. So there are a number of follow-up areas here. And quality of network is highlighted. What technology will you support? Lots to consider. So moving on to the next step of this guide is implementation. So I think it's important to consider how you will get to your eventual goal of having a fulsome strategy for the community. So we've identified and tried to simplify into a checklist. What do you need? So checklist part 1 is define the current connectivity situation, and then we can check off, once we've achieved these critical steps here. And then a reference database. It is suggested that we provide ISPs with some narrative overviews of targeted service areas, municipalities, so that they can pull that off our website and use that for their own applications for senior levels of government funding. And then identify core connectivity needs and priorities. Then the part 2 is the committee needs to define desired connectivity service levels. And this starts with a look at where are unserved, underserved areas in the county. And for each of those targeted areas, then the committee needs a narrative description, and then a technology assessment, and then a vendor assessment. So if there are already ISPs who are serving, say, last mile residents in that area, then we need to be able to connect an end user with the available ISPs. And I think the county can play a key role there. And then funding. We need to have a plan for how we would fund We have to do a bit of research into what this might look like. We may have to seek some consultant support for this because it is quite complex, and I can say that with certainty. As I'm partway through the RFP review process, working with our partners at Swift Network. So going through the proposals is quite complex and is something that we have to very carefully map out and plan for. And then reducing red tape and public engagement, developing an implementation schedule, and then deciding how you will measure your success and how you will continuously improve the program and strategy that you've put in place. So then part 5 includes some additional information and resources. We've detailed for the purposes of the public, because I think committee members are pretty well informed about the SWIFT network, but there's some investment information, some additional resources there. We also connect members of the public or anyone reading this strategy with Canada's connectivity strategy, provincial and federal funding programs, which we need to keep top of mind, and additional resources, along with some terminology. So that, Mr. Warden, is the extent of my presentation and high-level overview of kind of the areas where we have to consider, or the committee has to consider, in order to provide some clearer direction for staff.
Well, Julie, thank you for that. I think your suggestion that we take this back, some of us probably need to read it 3 times, but it's worth it. Good job. Do it. And I know Julie has another meeting shortly, but do we have any quick questions for Julie? I don't want to rush anyone, but it's one of those days where there's a lot of meetings shoved into one day. Are we in agreement then that we'll go back, study this? We have 2 or 3 members not with us today, so we'll make sure they get the copy and the request to study this and be prepared. Can we look ahead when we'd like to reconvene?
For sure.
Want to grab your calendars? How much time, Julie?
Well, I think it depends on how much time committee members feel they need to sift through and provide input on a 40-page document. So we'll be flexible in terms of what support you need to set up a meeting, but it's really at the discretion of the committee.
Dominique?
Mr. Chair, just to continue and to reflect the urgency that we've put to this initiative, I think the rhythm that we've kept and the pace that we've kept so far, I'd like to maintain if it's at all possible. So I think the 2-week pattern, if we could commit to doing our homework in 2 weeks, that certainly would be my preference and suggestion.
I full-heartedly agree with that. I would even venture we could go a week, but that would throw the rhythm off. So it's 2 weeks and then hopefully 2 weeks after that. So Duncan, you all right with that?
Thursdays do seem to fall on my council meeting days. Recently they've been concluded before this meeting started. I don't want to have to change the world for me, but there could be some days that I might be a little bit late getting online. So that's the only concern I have is they have been lining up on this 2-week interval with my local council meetings. So, but we're all busy people.
How are you off for 2 weeks from now? Do you have council that day?
Well, of course, we're into budgets right now, so we have committee of the whole, and usually it seems that Thursdays are always set aside for that. But I will work with this group as best, and like I say, if I'm a little late or depending on what's happening at the local council meeting, I can turn that over to my my deputy mayor to manage it. So you go ahead and do your thing, and I will work around it.
Thank you. Mike, how about you?
I'm fine for 2 weeks Thursday. I can be flexible as well. The time of day is actually, funnily enough, the most important for me. As long as these meetings are kind of in the same time frame, 2 o'clock onwards, so I can make almost any day work.
Okay, let's go for the 2 o'clock and try to see if we can make it work and keep it going. So we've got our marching orders, homework. I always used to hate that word, but I look forward to reading this. Some good stuff. We are making progress. And I thank you for the effort, Julie. I know there's a lot of effort into it and all staff. So do we have any further comments before we call for an adjournment?
Just a housekeeping, Mr. Chair. Did we approve the minutes or just the agenda?
Good point. Better ask Catherine.
We did not.
We better do it. Has everyone read the minutes? Are there any errors, omissions? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve them. Dominique,
I'll move the minutes.
Mike, please call the vote there, Catherine.
Councillor Jiguer,
Yes.
Councillor McPhail,
That was a yes.
Andrews,
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Warden,
Yes,
4-0, the motion is carried.
thank you, Catherine. And thank you for the reminder, Dominique. If there's nothing further, I will entertain a motion to recess.
So
Mike
moved.
and Duncan, again, call a vote, Catherine, please.
Councillor Jiguer,
Yes, I'll vote to adjourn. I need more than a recess.
Okay,
Councillor McPhail,
Yes.
Mike Andrews,
Yes.
Mr. Warden,
yes.
4-0,
right.
the motion is carried.
Thank you, everyone, for your attention. Appreciate it. Stay safe. Talk to you soon. Take care.